I have to make it entertaining, which the games like this and Astrobot, I feel are meant to be played like a psychopath. Hello and welcome to another Dead Pixel. We're a podcast about video games, anime, entertainment, life, a little bit of everything in between. I'm your host as always, Joe, and with me, the gentleman who's already looking forward to Easter, Nick. How you doing, Nick?
Doing good. I just ate a tub of guacamole, which is green. Green is a very integral part of Easter, and so that is sort of the way that I begin to prepare. It's green guacamole to like lay the grassy groundwork, as it were, and then I will be eating pink dyed marshmallows and Peeps. Um, all next week for every meal. How are you, Joe?
Doing all right. Once when I was in sixth grade, we were walking to school, and my buddy, like, there was a path we used to take through like this little wooded trail,
Hmm.
and a buddy and I found $20 on the ground. And we then proceed, yeah, $20 as in sixth grade. It was great. So we decided to just binge on like Easter sweets.
Mm.
So we had $20 worth of Peeps and sodas and, like, Fago and whatnot. And then like, it was, I think it was like a Friday or Saturday. Like, yeah, I think it was a Friday then, because that night we proceeded to watch a bunch of movies and just gorge on all these sugary things. And the joke for a little while is like, yeah, one night we ate $20 worth of Peeps, and I've never been right since. Uh,
Explains a lot about you. I'm gonna be honest.
yeah,
I
it's
think
also why I can't do a lot of sweets, probably.
I think we found what's wrong with you. Uh, it's the Peeps.
So yeah,
Um,
right.
but
No, it's
I mean Peeps. Yeah, I could definitely see how Peeps would get out of control pretty quickly. I think, in terms of weight, I could eat a lot more like raw chocolate or like Hershey's like milk chocolate. Uh, than I could Peeps before literally vomiting everywhere or regretting my life.
yeah. Well, when you're that young, you're just hitting that sugar high, and then you're like,
Dude,
all right, just
see, I
continue
like
watching.
even as a kid, like I never really, I mean, I would eat, sweets and stuff, but even if I had like an entire, smorgasbord of sweets and sugar, I would get pretty full of it and be like, okay, I'm good. After a reasonable amount. So I don't know. I now I think I can eat like I can eat a lot more without even thinking about it. So I don't know. I guess it's just one of
Yeah,
those
but you
things.
got adult problems now.
Yeah, I have to bury the existential dread in something. You know.
All right. Well, speaking about existential dread, what about the news, man? What do we got
There's
for us?
plenty of news. There's plenty of news. Nothing huge, but lots of little interesting things. So leading the news, there's some other stuff that I could have pulled, but I just figured it'd probably be best to start with the AI hellscape that we live in now, because there was three different things that popped out in relation to that. Um, and I also watched a bunch of YouTube videos this past week on AI art, and I'm basically kind of doom pilled on it a little bit. I don't know. I was talking to my friends and my D&D friends, and I was like, it's not that bad really. But then the more I talked, I was like, actually, maybe it is that bad. Anyway, so the actual news that you should care about a little bit is that coming from The Verge, there was an AI powered um, video or an AI powered Aloy character video that was making the rounds at Sony headquarters or whatever. At least that's kind of what the article said. And that video was leaked by somebody and posted on The Verge. It was posted on YouTube for like a minute, I think. So I don't know why I pulled this from IGN and they were crediting The Verge. So maybe they're the ones that followed up on it first or something. But so there is a little bit of a GIF that I saw of the video, and it is good. I mean, like it's not perfect. It's not what you would want to put out as an actual game, and it's only a snippet, but it's pretty, it's pretty, it's pretty close, you know, um, and uh, and I thought that was kind of interesting, but like the kind of the writing, I guess the email that this was attached to kind of leaked, and some of the um, some of the words surrounding it from people at Sony was like, "This is only the beginning," or you know, "This is only part of what it could, you know, possibly do." Um, so yeah, I feel like we've got to know that this is, you know, this is already happening, and they're gonna try whatever they want, but it was just sort of interesting. It just, if anything, it's just interesting to see where they are uh, inside of Sony, and it seems like they're fairly close, but not there yet.
All right. Yeah. What else you got from the AI front?
So next thing, um, Balatro, uh, they their Reddit, they removed the a moderator from their Reddit because this is kind of a little bit too succinct, but because of his opinion on AI art, or rather that he was posting his opinion on AI art being used on the Reddit um, page. And basically, he was like, as long as you're saying that it's AI art, it's okay. And the other developers at Balatro were like, no, no, we no. So they removed him, and they put out a statement saying, we don't condone AI art, you know, being used in games and stuff like that. We don't want it on our Reddit and all that stuff. So that kind of happened. And I don't think the guy, I don't know what capacity he works for them or whatever, but it didn't say like he was fired or anything like that. I don't know if he even actually works for them or if he's just a Reddit moderator. But that was kind of the extent of what happened, and he's still, I guess, at large. There's more to the article about it. And then other thing on AI, two Zenless Zone Zero voice actors were replaced by AI. But the funny thing about it is that they didn't know until the patch notes went live. Um, so that's, I mean, it's probably not funny to them, but just kind of the like, ooh, yikes, that kind of sucks aspect of it um, is a little bit, you know, surprising. So, yeah. So I didn't get to read too much on that last VO one, or the voice actor one being replaced, but yeah. So that is sort of the news from the front lines.
Yeah, I'm curious if they were part of the whole, like voice actors guild, kind of situation because, the strike that's going on. And that's the fear, right? Is, well, we pay you, we're paying you for the voice, you did that. Now we're cutting you out. We have the samples we need and we're going to then not pay you for your likeness and record a bunch of stuff that, we don't have to pay anyone for now technically. And that's shady as hell. I mean,
And we just have like a
I
1%
was
higher electricity bill instead of paying you labor.
Yeah, and it's like, and if you had, most, I don't know if those the contracts for bigger voice actors have any like royalties or whatnot, but if they do anything else with that character, special events or something like that, there's going to be, specific dialogue that they're going to want to record, and that's one less person for them to have to pay, and that's, yeah, that is not good. I mean, that's, was it MiHoYo is the company that's doing this one,
Mm.
but that's, I'm curious where the voice, like where their voice talent came from as well. But yeah, to not tell them, and yeah, it's just not a good look. Most people won't know or care, but you should in some way, because once again, it's, unless if it's somehow a part of their contract, which it probably wasn't, and that's the whole reason for the strikes in general, is just to get that solidified. So All right. Hopefully that gets squared away in a positive manner for the voice actors,
Yeah.
but I doubt it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going to end up happening with it. I mean, it's hard to imagine that it's, I don't know. Like it's like on the one hand, I think, you know, whenever torrenting stuff came out and like Napster and stuff, the music industry was on fire and their, internet was not as widespread as it is now, but people were pulling their hair out and kind of decrying the end of the music industry and all that stuff. And um, this stuff, it adapted and it survived. And now everybody just streams everything. So they make money off of that and ads and stuff. AI is going to be a different problem, to be sure. But I don't know what the answer would be. And that is what scares me. But I also kind of think that like people are probably going to figure it out one way or another. And there's probably still going to be voice actors and, artists and stuff like that. But it will probably look different. And that's sort of the scary thing.
All right.
Okay.
Well, moving from that hellscape to what now? What do you got for us?
Right. So, um, this is probably maybe out of order, but we'll do it this way. So something strange that I saw on Kotaku and a bunch of other places. I picked it up too, but Kotaku was the first place I saw it, and it was that the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, the Super NES, runs a tiny bit faster now than it did 35 years ago. And people have been trying to figure out why that is. And it's like not modded. It's like old Nintendos and why they are running faster. And so they kind of act like it's a big mystery and stuff. And like people are like trying to figure this stuff out. And so I'm sure that it is a little bit still up in the air, but somebody offered a reason why it might be, and that is that the APU clock uses a ceramic resonator, and that can be affected as it gets older. It would cause it potentially to run a tiny, like it's like a fraction of a bit faster, which is also the other part of this article, is that it's like laughable that anybody would notice because it's just microscopic. But I was like,
Speedrunning community. It's hands down. It's the speedrunning community that figures all that stuff
it
out.
is. And you don't even have to read the article to know that. But they do say, speedrunners are, like hard at work trying to figure this out. And I'm just like, that is speedrunning community is. They just figure everything out really fast. So I guess that's why they're speedrunners. But anyway, I thought that I was like, oh, that is so weird. Why would it run even at all faster? It would make sense for it to run slower, I guess, because of age. But yeah. So that mystery might kind of already be solved, but there might be more to that. So watch closely for developments, I guess. And then just sticking with Nintendo, this isn't real news. This is kind of just more scuttlebutt and talk. But regarding the Switch 2, Bloomberg, I think, threw their hat in the ring, saying that they think it's probably going to be $400. So it seems like it's that price point is more likely now.
I told you. I freaking told you.
It's not out yet. It's not out yet.
No, Bloomberg. No, they're gonna spite Bloomberg after the whole Switch 2 debacle from forever ago. They're like, no, you say it's gonna be 400. We're gonna now spite you, and we're gonna make it 500 just to make you guys look dumb.
Well, in the article, it did say that like, it's probably going to be around 400, blah 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 blah, because it's a big increase. But like, I forget who it was that was saying this, but some expert was saying, but look, no matter what price it comes out at, within reason, but no matter what price it comes out at, it's going to sell insane amounts. So so that was their thing to be like, it's probably going to be 400, but don't be surprised if it's 500 because it will sell either way. And I was like, huh, okay. So I if I was going to make that bet today, I'd probably say 400, but I'm going to stick with 500 because that is just the hill that I'm going to die on. So yeah, but the other thing about it is that there was a little bit of reiteration about June as a release date being mentioned. So that would be cool if June was kind of the release date. That would be if they. I mean, if they would announce it today, it's pretty close still. But so that's the only thing that makes me think, well, maybe they won't do it in June. Because I mean, if they wait till like April and it's like 2 months away, I would just be starting to get afraid of leaks, because the closer you get to something actually happening, the more people have to have it in hand and have to know about it, and then cat's out of the bag very, very easily. So, but anyway, that's kind
Well,
of the scuttlebutt
they
around the
have
Switch too.
June would be the earliest it possibly could be anyways, because they're still doing hands-on events. I don't know if you remember when they mentioned it last time,
Yeah.
you were able to sign up for the world tour, and so depending on your area, that's going to be going through to May. The end of May is May 31st is in Seoul, to June 1st. And then they still have, according to their website, Hong Kong and Taipei are still to be announced. Uh, so yeah, we have. It would be weird for them to be like, you can go hands on, though we have already released this.
Mm.
So at the very
It is
earliest, it'll be
Nintendo though.
after June 1st.
So
Yeah, I mean, it's like, well, you can go hands on, but we're not actually releasing in Hong Kong and Taipei till later. So good
mm.
luck. I mean, you just got to import that. I
Well,
don't know.
I
It
mean, if it
just
sells out like it's probably going to and be completely impossible to get, then hands on at a world tour event might be the only place you can get it, or you can actually play it for 6 months or a year.
Yeah, I mean, North America gets it first in April. Europe is they're slated for April, and then mid up to mid May.
Right.
Then you have Melbourne mid May. Then Asia is kind of smattered you got Tokyo, but right starting like at the end of April. You have then they just because they don't like Korea, it's Seoul is at the very end of the tour so far. It doesn't make sense because you're like, yeah, we're gonna go to America, we're gonna go to Europe, jump across, and then we're gonna go, to Tokyo. And then when we're done with pretty much everyone else, Seoul, you're gonna get it then, just because we don't like you. But then, like I said, Hong Kong and Taipei are there theoretically to round out the end, but like they'll probably get them slotted right before Seoul just to spite them. Uh,
Just to spite the Koreans. Yeah,
all right.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Uh, but anyway, so at the very least, it makes sense that they'd be launching Switch no sooner than like the 1st of June, because that's the last tour date, and then I can see them being like, all right, and whatever last event they have, whether it be Seoul, Hong Kong, or Taipei, and then being like, okay, now we have a big reveal at the end of this last thing. Oh yeah,
It
by the way, it's coming out next week or something like that, or
it does
it,
kind of
it
make sense because by the time people have had hands on it, then it's like, what are you waiting for? Just tell us when it's coming out. It. I think that does make sense. Um. Yeah. So there's that. And then next up, Ubisoft is said to be looking for investors in a new gaming group. This is coming from Bloomberg as well. I think Tencent threw their hat in the ring pretty quickly, said something about being interested or whatever. That's part of the article. But yeah, so they are. Everyone's pretty familiar with the struggles that Ubisoft has had over the decade or so, and with money and kind of investors and hostile takeovers and all kinds of stuff. So they're looking into that. And then I didn't get a chance to look at this other article that's kind of about that too much. So maybe you can help me out a bit. But apparently there's somebody that is trying to organize a protest at Ubisoft based on on mismanagement of something or other. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know too much else about it. It's just it's one of those things that Ubisoft has gotten a lot of, they've gotten a lot of flack for their most recent endeavors for the Assassin's Creed game, and I think it's just to be compiled upon that. There wasn't it's one of those things I just heard in passing, and it was just like, yeah, Ubisoft is going to be in real trouble, especially since the most recent stuff for Assassin's Creed hasn't been looking too hot, and it feels like this happens every like decade, or not even like even less than that, but it's like like you mentioned before, like, well, we're about to we're on the verge of being taken over. Hey, we survived. Hey, we're on the rocks again. Hey, it's like the company is too big for their britches, and they don't have a proper plan, especially with after uh was it their most recent quadruple A game.
A
I
pirate
can't even
game.
remember what is it.
Sea of
Yeah,
Thieves.
the pirate game.
Is it
It's not Sea of Thieves. Uh, that's doing a disservice to Sea of Thieves.
Pirates of the Sea? Is that what it's called?
But anyways, once again, it's just like the not properly managing the expectations and kind of going over their scope. Uh, it's there's a nice clout to, like, I think we were talking about this before on a different date, but like we were talking about how uh, they don't make enough games to warrant as big of the company it is, but it's one of those clout things. Like, yeah, we got companies, we got spots all over the world. We have different teams. They can do proper localization, and we got just this. Their footprint is really good, so it makes them look bigger than they are. But
Mm,
really, they can scale it down quite a bit, which is unfortunate because it's bound to happen. They're about like. If anyone's going to get downsized real quick, it's probably them. The only thing is certain government like actions might be taking place to prevent a lot of that, depending on different countries, and that's the whole reason why they even came out with um, said pirate game, because of that studio had and I cannot remember if it was in Singapore or Malaysia, Southeast Asia, and I think it was Singapore, but anyways, they were not allowed to open up a studio and not release the game that they said they were going to, and that's why that's kind of why it was development hell, and that's kind of had to release the way it did, instead of just no normal company would be like, we're just shutting it down now. It's like we're going to take our losses and that's fine, but no, it's part of the government contract. From what I heard was like, you opened up a studio here, and whatever deals or agreements you said, you have to release said game. And it's unfortunate because then that particular group, they automatically they come out the gate with a black mark on them, right? They're like,
mm.
"Ooh, yeah, that was made by that team. Yeah, that game didn't turn out so hot. Like, it wasn't our fault. We were given a bad batch." And so, anyways,
Yeah.
it's not too surprising that Assassin's Creed, due to the fallout from this, some other stuff is going to happen. But
Well, it,
I honestly don't know the full
I
details
looked
about
at
this
the
article.
article a little bit, and it's a shareholder. So I don't know what size shareholder, but it's a shareholder who is doing a protest. I could just free. It was from Games Radar. Ubisoft shareholder plans protest in response to mismanagement, Assassin's Creed shadow delays, and alleged acquisition talks with Microsoft and EA. So, um, AJ Investments calls Ubisoft horribly mismanaged. So, I mean, if you're gonna have a suit, you're gonna say you're gonna say big words like horribly mismanaged. But yeah, they're just in a weird spot. Ubisoft has always been, as far as I can remember, in a weird place. They're really not a AAA studio. They're like a 2.75A studio. They're just, or like 2.5A or something. They're just kind of right there, but they're probably too big and make their games probably too good to really, go down to double A or, sort of like Devolver Digital type stuff. They're uh, they're in that zone where, like, man, if we can we can just make a lot of money off of this stuff if we just kind of do it a little bit better than we usually do. So I don't know, but
Skull and Bones. That was the name of the game that I cannot remember,
right.
and rightfully so. No one should really remember this debacle.
First
But yeah,
quadruple A game.
yep. And then the fact that it went discounted so
Yeah. Oh
quickly proved how quadruple A it really was. But yes, all right. Well, anyways, Ubisoft. At this point, it's just like love them or hate them. I mean, they do make interesting or at least fun open world games, but they need to change the formula soon because it's kind of a mixed batch with the Far Cry 6. They had really good talent, but they didn't seem to utilize it as it should. And it's kind of like they're making their games big for big sake. I felt
yeah.
like the
Right.
game that was the first one in a while that I just didn't finish because it was, I don't know, just if it was just felt wrong. It's just like I did not get into it. It didn't grab me as much, and it just seemed like noise. It went kind of back on that the old Assassin's Creed or like having too many markers on the map. They need to scale it back, make it more trim, and really amp up what they got. And I think that's why a lot of people liked um, Far Cry 4 when it was in the mountains. Like hey, it's the whole you had the you still had a fun, crazy dictator, which has become their hallmark. Uh, and I feel like they really squandered Far Cry 6 because of that, because it's like yeah, you were not getting enough story, and to get to the story you have to go through a lot of wade through a lot of kind of crap.
Yeah.
But other people really liked, if you have only the one game to play and you just want things to take off for days, get that endorphin run. I'm like that's great, uh, but it's just a little too much bloat, I think. So
Yeah.
we'll see. It really does depend because this Assassin's Creed also seems to be not people aren't so happy with it, and uh, between that and potentially whatever new Far Cry they're doing, could make or break them.
Yeah.
So, all right, what else you got, man?
So a bunch of quick hit kind of stuff here. Saber Interactive says they're still working on KOTOR, and everything that they have talked about is still in development. They said so. There's a little article saying, yeah, it's feels like it's still far, far away though. Which I was like, okay, editor, all right, you're having fun, fine. So there's that, and then Warhammer Space Marine 3 is officially in development. It's like, oh, who could have guessed that was going to happen? So if you liked Space Marine 2, good news. There will probably be a Space Marine 3 in probably 3 years or something like that. I don't know. But yeah. Then Critical Role, the people that that do D&D on the internet, voice actors and stuff, they are saying that there should be a video game announcement about their video game, their Critical Role video game, any day now. I forgot that they were making a video game. Um, so, yeah, anyway. So, if it's along the lines of like some sort of RPG that is fully voice acted, it better be fully voice acted if literally everybody on the freaking team is a voice actor. Then I will probably be interested. If it's some sort of like a, gosh, what's that game that they made? Pillars of Eternity? Nope, that's a book. Wait.
No, Pillars of Eternity is a game. I
Okay,
mean,
I'm
it's
thinking
kind
Pillars
of
of the Earth.
kind of a
Pillars of Eternity is the game, though. Yes, you're right. If it's like that and it's just from them, I will be interested. I'll have to see, but I'll be interested. So we'll see what they come out with. Maybe it'll be crap, but that should be an announcement soon, apparently.
yeah. I mean, I can see it totally being something in the isometric style Diablo slash Baldur's Gate vein. Um, I think that that would be the most appropriate, but at the same time, part of me would prefer to see him in the original Penny Arcade, action RPG style, like turn based, the Rain Slick Precipice of Darkness 1 and 2 style, which was like very much a Mario RPG front. I think that would be also a good use of their talent and quality of the animation, because being able to see the proper sprites. So I didn't know they're making a game. So this is new to me. But then again, I only watched season one of like the Vox Machina on Prime, and I don't. I actually never made it through a full season of like Vox Machina or like the actual any of their seasons, and I've only seen like highlights.
Oh man.
I like them. It's really hard to find the time to listen to people play D&D.
I mean, it's like 3 hours, four. I'm sorry, not three. It's like 4 hours, sometimes 6 hours, times 278 episodes or whatever. That's a lot. I mean, that's like truck driver time. Like you better have like an LCD screen or be okay with just listening to it, and just that's like the amount of time you would need to get through it.
That was
And
the problem is I was listening to them, and it's by far more enjoyable to watch them and have their reactions. But then, yeah, that's a lot of screen time. I could be doing anything else.
yeah,
So,
that's a lot.
but they are entertaining. So, yeah, good luck to them on that.
Yeah, definitely all very good at VO and everything else they do. Next up, Split Fiction seems to be selling pretty well. This is definitely a game that piqued my interest a little bit, and I do plan to get it and force you to play it with me at some point
That's fine with me.
in the future. I don't care, Joe. We are gonna have to play it.
I've played. Unlike you, I've played all their games.
I don't want to hear any back talk. Yeah, so it's selling well apparently. Seems like they have done that. They've done the right things leading up to it, and people are rewarding them for it. So that's good. A couple of things here. New game announcement called Silent Hill F. Trailer just dropped. It's just like a cinematic trailer, kind of story trailer or whatever. Looks pretty cool. It looks in the same vein as that other short little game that they came out with. Not the short story or whatever, but it was something that they said they were going to come out with. Maybe this is maybe that was Silent Hill F. Whenever the Silent Hill 2 remake was coming out, they mentioned something else and they had some sort of teaser trailer. This might have been that. So anyway, I watched the trailer for it though, the new one, and it looks pretty cool. It's about like a 15, 17-year-old girl in Japan, and who's basically starting to be haunted by the Silent Hill type stuff. And then there's, running, and there's like spooky stuff, and some of the monsters look pretty good that they show. So yeah, so far so good. Looks kind of cool.
Yeah, it's this one's done by Neobards Entertainment Limited, and I'm not familiar with them at all. So it's kind of like it's an interesting, you know, thing to just pull out like a group like this that doesn't have attachment to the franchise. Them doing a Japanese schoolgirl protagonist and not being a Westerner, mostly, because they're almost always American
Yeah.
uh, in the series. So it's a different take, different spin. Uh, it's kind of curious how this is going to play out. We'll see. All right. Well, I mean, and if it's anything, it has on the heels of Silent Hill 2 remake. It's going to have an uphill battle because that was so like people weren't sure what to expect, and it came out so great and well received. So it's gonna have its, it's like it's having a good opener before the main show, and if the opener's too good, then the main event is going to be like looked down upon.
Yeah.
Granted, this isn't a numbered sequence. This is an F. So and then if it
It.
tanks, then the jokes are going to be F to pay respects. So
Oh gosh. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Though and you bring up a good point because it does look. I mean, hard to tell from the cinematic trailers, but the cinematic trailers do look like they have been lovingly crafted. They do look triple A, as it were. So I didn't really think about that, but yeah, like this game had probably better be at least a year away before it comes out because Silent Hill 2 remake probably still a little too fresh in the minds of people. Then again, it might come out this October, and if it does, I would suspect that it probably wouldn't be like a $70 game, or it wouldn't be a as robust an experience or whatever. But it remains to be seen. But because you're kind of right. Like you kind of want to let your stuff, your IP breathe a little bit, and this is different but it's not that different. So you got to be careful.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, well, if they're kind of following the Resident Evil format, right? Try to come out with a new Resident Evil, then do a remake, then follow it up with a new Resident Evil, then another remake. So if, uh, and we already know that was that Blooper Team's going to be doing something with them. People are assuming it's another Silent Hill remake, but it could be a new. People were debating whether or not it's going to be a new IP. I think that uh, it would make sense if they redid like Silent Hill 1 or Silent Hill 3 because Blooper Team already knocked it out of the park with 2, so that's a little bit more of the comfort zone. And then so while Blooper Team's doing remakes, you have other people trying to make new installments. Uh, but yeah, once again, Silent Hill F. It'll be interesting to see how that works. It's a different take, and hey, I kind of want to reward them for doing at least something a little different, right? It's not just trying to do the same exact format. They're trying to, it may feel the same all in the end, but there's at least an attempt. So, and
Yeah.
we like to. Too many people are always crapping on the idea of like new IPs, and I'm guilty of this as well, being like, yeah, this is a good game, but I can't wait for the sequel where they refine it, right? I'm like, well,
Yeah.
like, isn't that the indicative of the problem as a whole? Because I'm not rewarding them for doing something new. And like, yeah, this is going to be maybe not as polished, but unfortunately, the fan reactions are usually so rough that they only get the one chance, and if they don't do great, then that's it, and they're out. So
Well, like, I mean,
uh,
if this was Capcom, I would be more harsh on, on it, but it's Konami, so it's like your shy little like 10-year-old who doesn't really make friends easy is like trying to make friends, and you're just like, okay, yeah, sure, just go on, that's fine. Yeah, you don't have to do any homework today. Just go on and make some friends. We just like so like for me, I'm like, okay, Konami, yeah, just make the game. If it's good, great. If it's bad, that's okay. Just keep trying to make games because for a long time, I mean, for like all of like the 2000 teens, it was like, is Konami just going to quit making games completely? Like they have these kind of amazing IP that are just kind of sitting behind their walls, and they don't really seem very interested in making games because they have so many other money making ventures, that it's like, hey, well, like what's going to happen? Well, they're making games again. And it's not like they're half assing it. They're making pretty decent stuff, and we just want to encourage that here at Another Dead Pixel. Uh, what's a good name for a daycare? Another Dead Day. No, no, that's not okay. Anyway, go on.
let's stop right there. And yes, for sure. I mean, once again, yeah, you're right though. Konami is trying to make headway between the last Silent Hill and then the Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater remake. That's coming out, I think, still in the end of August, but that's looking good.
Mm.
So they are making the right decisions, or at least they feel like they're making the right decisions. And yeah, we just hope that they don't stumble. But at the same time, as much as you would like to give them a pass or pity, if they come out and it turns out to be garbage, you're gonna flay them anyways, and you're just
Mm.
gonna roast them over an open fire in front of everyone to see and scare them away. So just yeah, we'll fingers crossed that Silent Hill F turns out to be really awesome. Because once again, it's always good. It's always good to have better games out there. I mean, I may not necessarily agree with uh, uh, Split Fiction's team on how they make their games, but they do make good multiplayer experiences as a whole. The stories may not always be as great as they think it is, but once again, I'm glad to hear that Split Fiction came out to be really solid because we don't want crappy games out there. We want fun games and people to have good time.
Mm.
So for sure, hope Silent Hill, thoughts and prayers. Hopefully, turn out well. No
uh,
F to respects. Hopefully, F to win. All right.
next up, game I saw a trailer for called Void Martyrs, and it's the cheekiest way I can describe it. Maybe not the most accurate, but the cheekiest way I can describe it is to say that it's Dead Space in Hotline Miami format, but you're a nun. You are a little literal NUN nun. And anyway, so basically, it's an isometric kind of Dead Spacey style story, and you're a nun that is in a spacesuit trying to kill monsters and figure out what's going on with whatever the space station is. But anyway, I was snooping around on YouTube and I saw this game pop up, or no, it was probably on a news article. But anyway, I ended up watching it on YouTube, and I was like, okay, this is kind of cool, kind of cool. So looks like a small indie-ish, kind of game. But it piqued my interest because it doesn't look all that expensive and maybe scary without being too scary. So yeah, looks cool.
All right. I'll expect to hear a follow up on that from you.
I only if I remember. So probably not. Last thing, and this is just the title of an article from, I think it was IGN. It doesn't matter. But this was the article title. Jonah Hill's Superbad character was so reprehensible that Sony insisted he not touch a PlayStation during video game scene, Seth Rogen reveals. So I just thought that was kind of funny.
Yep, that's that makes sense.
They just
Okay.
didn't want his character to be associated with their product. That's how much they hated that character. So I mean, I was like, yeah, I mean, I guess like he was like a teenage dirtbag or whatever, not to quote Wheatus, but so like I just don't understand why it's so bad that for him to hold a controller, but just a funny story.
I didn't realize it was Sony Pictures, adjacent, which then makes more sense, So
yeah,
it does, companies, I guess, look into that to a certain extent. I mean, you don't make the parent company angry, or else they don't give you the money. But also, if you think about it from from Japanese standpoint, underage drinking, wanting to, like whole goal of that, of the movie, stuff like that. It's just like, yeah, that goes against Japanese sensibilities. But once again, you're also talking about a country that turned Ted into a family movie.
Mm.
If you ever get a chance to watch Japanese Ted, the teddy bear movie with Mark Wahlberg, because that is a very different movie from the thing that we got in the rest of the world.
Wow. Okay.
It's pretty wild. So, all right, yeah, that's a funny, weird piece of news for Superbad. Like forever, like past the movie. I don't remember when that movie came out anymore.
07, 05, I don't know, somewhere in there.
07. Yeah, that sounds about right. So, all right. Well, from that to what we've been playing. So Nick, what games have you been playing lately?
Been playing Monster Hunter a little bit, here and there. Probably talk a little bit more about that later once we've solidified some better early thoughts. But so I've been working on that, and then also a little while ago played through maybe 4 hours of a little game called Ruiner, which is a isometric twin stick shooter, cyberpunk shooter, and it's not the Ascent. So it is a similar. It's cyberpunk like the Ascent, but and it's probably similar in some ways, but it's a little bit, the style I think is a bit glossier, a little bit sleeker. It came out later, I think, and it's a little bit smaller in scope in some ways, so they can kind of do some different things. But yeah, it's pretty standard fare. It has some weird. It has some kind of weird mechanics that I'm like, I don't know if we really need that or whatever. And I had like a saving issue one time, but overall it's been pretty fun. It does seem kind of like a standard cyberpunk story. Like some of the tropes of cyberpunk are popping their head up pretty early, and I am probably not going to finish it. Though I do kind of want to, but I'm probably not going to finish it. But there's some of the things in the story, and I'm like, okay, well, if you're telling me that, then that means that's going to happen, and if that's going to happen, then yep, that happened. So that guy is not like that. It's like this, and you're this. And so I kind of have to wait to see, if I would be right about that. But some of that stuff is a little bit tropey, so and not really particularly well hidden. Um, but otherwise, it's a pretty good game. It's a pretty competent game. I remember when this game came out. I think it was this game, and hearing like Jeff Gershman talk about it. So it would have had to be before the Ascent. I don't know.
Yeah, this is a 2017 game.
Okay.
The Ascent was 2021.
Okay.
So,
Then
yeah,
then yeah,
y-
it was
y-
but yeah, I do feel like this is more polished, but probably just because it's smaller, maybe. But I remember Jeff Gershman talking about it and being like him, like not liking it at with one phase, and my memory could just be wrong, but I remember him just being like blah blah blah, and I don't like this, and he's kind of making fun of it a little bit. So I'd always had it in my mind because I was like, oh, that's the game that, like Jeff Gershman just like really didn't like, but it looked good to me. So I sort of just didn't really take interest in it. Finally popped up on like PlayStation Plus or something, and so I was like, I'll give this a try, and I did, and I don't really understand why he disliked it so much. It's definitely not great, but it's also not like there's nothing glaringly horrible about it. Maybe later on it gets bad, and there are some things I can nitpick, but overall, if you are into cyberpunk significantly, and any of the other things that I've said pique your interest, I think you could probably do worse. I feel like I am more attracted to what this game is doing and trying to do, and the way that it's trying to do, than I was to the Ascent. I felt like the Ascent was maybe just a wrong place, wrong time for me, but maybe a little bit too wordy. And this is a bit more like, okay, just get to the killing, just get to the killing. And I feel like it does that pretty well.
I feel the Ascent wasn't wordy enough. Actually, that was my problem with it. I mean, I felt it needed more, and that was very much a one of the games that like I wanted. I want the sequel to come out where it's more fully flushed. Because I actually did finish that game. Yeah, Ruiner right now is actually like 80% off on Steam, so you can get. Apparently, they came out with some like a Hong Kong Massacre DLC pack, so like they can get the main game and the DLC for uh 7.18 US. So $7.18 for the
Yeah,
whole package. It's a pretty good deal. The base game is less than $5.
yeah.
With soundtrack, or $4 without soundtrack. So 80% off. Yep. That is cheap enough to most definitely warrant a play, at
It,
least a little game time.
yeah, if you're a little bit interested, I think it's worth that. You'll get, you know, 3 or 4 hours out of it before you're just like, maybe not for me, at the very least. But yeah,
All right. For me, I've been actually I dipped my toes into that Lego Horizon game. Uh, it's been a while since I played a Lego game, and I played the old ones, the Star Wars. I the stuff I played was mostly before the voice acting, so before the Lord of the Rings, because that was I think primarily the first one where it had a lot of the voice lines. Uh, so playing this, it's been a very long time since I played any Lego game, and it's all right. I mean, it has all the same charm that I remember those games having. Maybe a little slower onboarding process, but very curious to see how Sony's really trying to push Horizon as an IP, trying to make they did the whole marketing bit where it's like we're going to come out with a much more Legos, actual physical Lego sets for you to play with, and they're trying to make this into a more of a household name. I've always been a fan of the world, uh, and the concept, and the base game had a really good story. I never finished the sequel.
mm-hmm.
It's kind of one of those things that like that and God of War. I kind of came into the PlayStation 5 a little later, and I'm like, okay, I got these games because they're mandatory like playthrough, but then I got sidetracked by other shiny bits and the newer stuff that came out.
Yeah, because
So
I mean, by the time you got to those, I mean, those are still amazingly, both those are still amazingly beautiful, well-made games. But it is just like, but it's not the newest thing, and there's a newer thing, so I'm just gonna new that new thing up a little bit. But yeah, like the it's whenever I saw Lego Horizon, the first trailers and stuff for it, I was like, that does look really cool. That does look really good in Lego world. But yeah, so are you enjoying it overall? Is there anything annoying about it or what?
I don't find I find it to be just a perfectly good, solid all around like simple game. And simple isn't necessarily a bad thing for sure. I play it with around my kids. My kids don't quite have the dexterity to function the controllers as it should be. And also, one is younger than the other, so they would both fight if the elder one got to play, then the younger one would want to, and it'd just be chaos. So they get to watch,
Mm.
uh,
Well, I
but
wanted to
they
ask about that.
also
Are they old
yeah.
enough to still like watch and be interested in like what's
uh,
going on, or are they kind of like I don't really understand and just sort of come in and see and then go on about their dinosaur playing or whatever?
the eldest one for sure enjoys it to watch. The younger one depend like I have to make it entertaining, which the games like this and Astrobot, I feel are meant to be played like a psychopath, where you are meant to assault and attack fellow not like NPCs that are not hostile. And it's kind of funny because I was doing that with Astro's Playroom, I think it was, and here I am just attacking the fellow, you know, good NPCs. And of course, my son's like, what are you doing? No, but like joking, like laughing at it at the same time. And my wife is trying to chastise me for being a bully. But then the game rewards you by like I do attack this one NPC, and next thing I know, I get rewarded for it. I'm like, see, they want you to do this. So either it's was it nature or nurture? Like, so either they know the game developers want you to be a psychopath, or they just know people are psychopaths and they're just gonna be like, but either way, they're rewarding you for beating up your random person. And then of course in there's no penalty for doing stuff like this in the Lego game either. So I'm just picking up random people, carrying them over to the ledge of a waterfall, and just chucking them in. Uh, and then my kids are laughing, and then like, no, don't do it. And I'm like, I'm gonna do it. And like, no, and then I just throw them in. Uh,
I'm gonna clip this out and give it to your children when they're old enough to understand what's wrong with them, and this is gonna be that.
I did it for them. Okay, so
Nice. Okay.
yes, it's like I said, it's a good time. It's a charming game for sure. I think, yeah, it's and because they're like Lego games are usually multiplayer and stuff like that. They're a good time to have with friends. It's a safe co-op game.
Right.
They've generally always been that way, opposed to playing certain games where it takes a little more skill, and then you test your patience with your friend or your loved one.
Could
These games are like consequence free for the most part.
could you
Um,
imagine if Lego did make like an M-rated, like hard M game that's just like blood and like nudity and
Deadpool. There you go. You got you Deadpool, Lego Deadpool.
Lego
You've
Deadpool?
got everything you need right there. Yep. And then
Gosh,
you can totally eviscerate the like the other people. You can have the whole like X-Men or Marvel team, like universe. Wolverine just, bisecting someone, not a problem because they're Legos. They're meant to be that way. But then you just throw in a bunch of F-bombs in there, and some fake pixel blood, I guess. Yeah, uh, very easily done. They won't do it, but they really should. So what they should do is make the knockoff, like the Mega Blocks version, or like the essentially the Duplo. Something Duplo would be worse because those are like meant for younger kids. That'd be pretty horrific, actually. Okay, but beside that, uh, yeah, send your M-rated Lego fantasy games to Nick. He'll make a doc and uh, yeah, Event Horizon Lego. There you go. Uh,
okay.
all right. All right, and now I guess yeah, that's really been it. I recommend it if you want a simple game to play, something that's low stakes but entertaining, and still still pretty good. Go ahead with what we've been watching. I'll quick jump in. So my kids, I mentioned before, I got them into Godzilla early on because I'm a terrible person, but also Godzilla's great. Uh, and
Father of the
m-
Year.
Yeah, right? Well, recently, uh, m my son's been getting into Godzilla Destroy All Monsters, because and that one's actually a great one because it has all of them right out the gate, just like a bunch of, monsters all over the place. Um, Turns out my son loves the old Godzilla movies, and he doesn't care if they're all subtitled in English because he can't read anyways. He just wants to see the action, but he will sit there through swaths of story and just will ask what's going on, but just does not like will have the patience to just be like, watching a bunch of Japanese people talk. And they went through like the old um Godzilla versus Mothra, and I'm like, I warn him ahead of time, like, dude, Godzilla's a bad guy in this one, okay? Sometimes Godzilla's a bad guy, sometimes Godzilla's a good guy, but this one, Godzilla's a bad guy. And then I have to, introduce Mothra to him. And at one point, Godzilla's trying to crush Mothra's egg, and both my son and daughter were like, "No, Godzilla, no!" Like trying to like
Stop him.
persuade Godzilla not. It's pretty funny. So yeah, then, pivoting from Godzilla to now watching the old, Ultraman TV show, all in Japanese, man, just Godzilla. I'm like, "Oh, dude, Ultraman, this is like the WWE, or, FE. This is before it predates all of them." He's just a dude in a suit wrestling another monster in a dude in a suit with the most like simple moves. Like he doesn't really have a whole lot of actual superpowers. He has that little hand laser and he can fly, but for the most part, he's just throwing a dude across the map, and that's really it. Um, it's just like it would be a little bit more more action if he was like backbreaking or something like that. But no, he's just like I'm just gonna grab you, spin you around, or I'll just chop you or headbutt you, and it's like at one point he kind of does a tackle and then my son goes, "Oh, Gohan does that." And I'm like, "Yes, yes, he does." In the very, very first Dragon Ball Z like episode, he headbutts like Raditz right in the chest. I'm like, "Yep, that's right. You're associating things with other nerd culture. I'm raising a nerd without a doubt. The poor kid doesn't have a chance." But
No,
anyway,
I mean his dad's on a freaking video games and anime podcast. Yeah,
And now he's graduated to Gamera, straight
Gamera.
up like the Gamera, the turtle, most popularized in the U.S. by Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Uh,
Uh, yeah, they originally did this, and that's how most people under even knew what Gamera was. And then Gamera kind of became popular in the West after that.
mm.
Uh, and yeah, I'm like, he's like, "Is it Godzilla?" I'm like, "No, Gamera's a turtle. He's a turtle that can spit fire and who flies." You know? So, yeah, it's pretty great. And yeah, he's just watching these old black and white like movies. He's like, after watching for like weeks, he finally asked, why is it all gray?" And I'm like, "Okay, so a long time ago, there was no color
He
TV.
probably
It was
thought
just black."
somebody, he probably thought the movie was going to explain to him why it was gray. And when it didn't forever, he was probably just like, okay, I got to ask. I mean, I was going to try to let you guys tell me the story, but I got to ask, why is it gray?
Yeah, once again, it's pretty entertaining to have them watch these old monster movies.
Yeah.
And once I had a friend came over and we were talking about this. I'm like, and I explained. I remember having an argument with him before, being, "Hey, if it wasn't for Pacific Rim, the term kaiju wouldn't be popularized in the West
Yeah.
because it was never called kaiju when growing up. But a lot of people start referring to the movies like kaiju, but they pretend like that's how they've always said it. We've always said kaiju. I'm like, no, we haven't. As a culture, we called them monster movies.
Yeah, we call them
And then you're like,
monsters.
yeah, I like monster movies. I like the Godzilla, the big monster movies, not like Frankenstein and
Yeah,
like
you
Dracula.
had to say I like mega monster movies or ultra sized monster movies or something. You had to preface it with some kind of prefix or whatever. And
Yeah,
now that Pacific Rim, Guillermo del Toro, doing the Lord's work, created a movie that where we could just say I like kaiju movies.
yes, and I mean, just imagine like the anime, Kaiju number 8 being translated to Monster number 8. It'd be very different.
Yeah,
Um,
it's yeah.
so, but once again, it's like the old Godzilla movie called like Destroy All Monsters. I'm like, okay, yep, that's right there. It's not Destroy All Kaiju. They were referred to as monsters.
The
And that one's a
proof.
great one just because they have an island. They're just and it's just Monster Land or something like that. And it's just a bunch of them on an island. You get to see Rodan and um Caterpie version of like Mothra. They just have like a dozen just on one spot, and it's just like, all right, you get that endorphin fix as a little kid right out the gate. You don't have to wait for exposition. You don't have to see. It's like, no, you got them all right there. Cool. And then they quickly wreak havoc. You're like, all right, that's fine. And then you realize, oh man, I forgot how many aliens are in Godzilla movies. Like aliens are a big part of the mythos.
Hmm.
I haven't seen an alien in any of the modern ones in a while. And I just started introducing my kid to the Millennium Godzilla, who is always angry at all times. The Millennium being like the stuff after the 2000s,
Hmm.
and they have some great, terrible CG. Um,
Yeah, I bet they
so
do.
yeah, for sure. So, this is gonna be an adventure. I should really be documenting my kid, just their expressions while they watch this stuff because it's hilarious. Uh,
Yeah,
but
yeah, you
it's
should.
nice. It's a nice fix to instead of watching the normal sing along Coco Melon mind melting stuff that as a parent you have to go through. I'm like,
You
oh,
should set up like a phone camera or something whenever you are going to show them movies or whatever that you know are going to kind of blow their mind. I don't know, like Star Wars or like I don't know, just whatever you can tell. It's like, all right, we're gonna watch this movie next, and it has a decent chance of completely rewriting the way that you think about the world. And I just want to have my camera on to capture your face as it happens.
yeah. Was it that kind of concept always reminded me of the movie? Was it with Christian Bale, Reign of Fire. What was that?
Oh,
Yeah, because it's was post-apocalyptic world where dragons destroy everything, and at one point they're doing a
play.
play
Right.
in front of little kids, and it's a guy in a black motorcycle helmet and jacket, and then they're doing the Vader scene,
Yeah.
and when he cuts off his hand, he's like, "I'm your father," and the little kids, and they're like, "Ah!" And I'm like, "That is, yeah," I'm like, "That's awesome," because that seems like a genuine like those kids had a genuine reaction, which was hilarious. I'm like, they're all either really good actors or that was like a real like surprise.
Yeah.
So that was pretty funny. And yeah, so anyways, that would be the right thing to do is to capture that for all eternity. And it's so much easier to do now than before. But once again, them cheering or them trying to dissuade Godzilla from crushing Mothra's egg was hilarious.
You should have told
So
him. You should have told him. Um, if you if you were good this year, then Godzilla won't crush the egg. But if you were bad this year, Godzilla will crush the egg. Let's watch.
they
I,
still believe in Santa. So
uh,
at this point, it's still super simple.
I know,
But
but
what?
like you
Yeah,
could really scar them that way. It's like,
I have to explain to him like once again, it's like as a starter, I'm like, all right, Godzilla's a bad guy in this one. Okay,
yeah,
so now that you're aware he's a bad guy, Mothra is actually the good guy, kind of. But I'm just gonna say he's a good guy for this one,
simplify.
stuff like that. So
Yeah.
all right. That's the majority of what I've been watching in my free time because it's hilarious. And I recommend turns out if you want the Millennium Godzilla, Pluto TV has a good selection of on-demand Godzillas. And there's only a handful of Godzillas on I think Freevee and Prime. So but still, you don't have to pay for like any of that stuff if you have a smart TV, so or a phone. So yeah, totally go for it. All right. What have you been watching, my friend?
I watched a little movie called The Gorge on Apple TV Plus. When I told you about this, you were like, "I knew you were going to watch that," and I was like,
You
"What do you,
love Apple TV so
what
much,
do you want
but
from me, man?"
also it screamed you, man. It screamed you.
Well, it's Anya Taylor Joy, and I forget the guy's name. It's kind of simple. He was in Whiplash and Top Gun, the new one. Anyway, dang, I can't think of his name. I feel like it should be right there. Anyway, it's about these two, and they are super sniper assassins, and they get sent to
Miles Teller.
well, so that's it. Um, and they get sent to. So they're kind of both between jobs, sort of. But they get sent to this super secret location by their governments called the Gorge. It's this big gorge that is like very foggy down in it, so you can't see what's going on. And they each have to separately. They don't know each other yet. They have to man these guard towers, um, and and there's like cryptic like you have to do this and you can't talk about it and you have to do it for like a year and blah 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 blah. And so that's sort of the premise. I won't give any more away than that, uh, because after that is when the weird stuff starts to happen. And for all that, it's a pretty cool idea. Like it was a pretty cool idea and pretty well executed, I suppose. As far as kind of those things go, the plot, the story, are good. This movie is like over 2 hours long. Not a lot over 2 hours long. I think it's like 2 hours and 12 minutes or something. And it feels kind of long. I definitely watched it in several sittings. So it wasn't so bad, but the early section to get to the gorge, and then there's some like, I'll call it like sort of do nothing time or montage time after they're at the gorge. And that is like pretty close to half the movie. And then the like actiony action starts, like the main, like, what are we doing here and why? And I think I understand why they kind of did it that way. They wanted to build up, your rapport with these characters and then with each other. And so they had to take time to do that. So it wasn't like terrible. It didn't drag too much. But I was kind of like, man, this is sort of taking its sweet time to get where it wants to go. Once it did, and actually that might be the most interesting part of the movie, because once it did sort of get to the crux of it, I was like, okay, it's just this. And all right, it's kind of, all right, it's an action movie. Fun. But yeah, so if all that sounds good, it's probably worth your time at least to check out. Something I will say about this movie is that it is filmed like a movie that would come out in a theater. I don't think it did. I could be wrong, but I don't think that it did. But
it's Apple TV. Most never do.
Yeah. I think. Yeah. Anyway. So anyway, watching this movie, I was like, like you could tell the cameras are better, the sets are better. There's actually, specially made sets, and there's a lot of green screen, but there's a lot of specially made sort of stuff for this movie that was never going to be like the biggest movie like ever. And I was just kind of thinking about this movie being on Apple TV Plus versus being on Netflix. And that if it was on Netflix, it would, I probably wouldn't have finished it, because it just wouldn't have, even with the same story and stuff, it just wouldn't have looked as good. It just wouldn't have looked right. The action probably wouldn't have been quite there, for this kind of story with these people.
Isn't that the whole point of Apple TV though? It's like while Netflix will shotgun blast a bunch of mid-level quality, you go to Apple because they don't come out with stuff as often, but the quality is generally just better. And that's kind of like the premium feel is what you pay for essentially.
So first of all, you're right. That does seem to be their MO. And so really it's kind of just me saying they are executing their business plan, at least somewhat effectively, because if it wasn't like the way that it was, then I would be like, what am I really getting? Like, well, how is Apple different, than something that I already have that is pretty much just as good, and so that's kind of been the thing I've noticed with Apple shows in general is, even if they're not perfect, they are at least trying to execute on quality on some level rather than shotgun blasting it. So yeah, it is sort of like, yes, they are doing what they are trying to do, but anyway, I just wanted to add that little bit to it. So anybody that doesn't have it or whatever is going to kind of imagine like a Netflix movie, kind of the maybe the budgetary constraints of a Netflix movie that they don't really care all that much about versus what is actually there. But people might have different judgments. So there are plenty of problems with this movie that I'm not going to go into. They're not huge. Some of the things are just kind of silly. But because, and I'm not going to go into them because it would spoil it, and I don't really want to do that. But overall, a good.
I have no problem spoiling it. So leave your eye. No, I won't do that. But
That's fine.
once again, it's a once if you nitpick or if you find certain stupid things to irritate you more because they do stupid stuff, then maybe not the most like the best movie for you. But if you could just sit back and chill with the movie and just take it as like a popcorn flick,
Yeah.
then this is from everything I've seen from the other reviewers. Like this is just an okay it's like it's an okay film. It's there's nothing it's not it's not high cinema, but it's not like it's not garbage, but it's most definitely there's whole plot holes and just weird things to do. Like why did they do that kind of questions. And then the answer is because the writer decided to do it that way.
Yeah.
Because the movie needs to end or the movie needs to progress in a certain way, and that's why they did it.
Yeah.
Like don't use logic. That's not meant to be. You're meant to check logic at the door and pick up your popcorn and your drink and then just chill. Like that's so.
Yeah.
But as a whole, like everyone seems to think that this is an okay film. I mean, once again, you got the pull of Anna Taylor Joy, like, and which is kind of a great like surprise in that front. But the one thing I will mention, I'll just have to say is so one person was just poking fun of it, being like, it's just like what why like now if we only had if we could only find actors to portray someone who can play the drums and who's good at chess and
Yeah, it's
uh
that is pretty funny. Or you've seen them do those things before. It's I wonder if those scenes are actually like a joke at their previous
their history, yeah.
previous one. It's got to
I
be,
don't
right?
know.
I mean, the drums kind of make sense, but anyway, because I mean, I think Miles Teller really is playing those drums in Whiplash, and he definitely has some talent. But yeah, it's all those things. A lot of people aren't going to understand this reference, but like, you remember back in the day when you would like have a good renter, like you'd rent a movie and you were like, I hope this is good. And you were like, you put it in, you watched it. And if it was like a bad movie, it just kind of ruined your life for that night or that weekend because it's like, it's already late. I can't go back out. I've wasted all this time. This movie sucks. And it's not like you can just pick another one. I mean, and you could see what was on cable or whatever, but it's like, if you wanted to see something new, this was your chance, and it was ruined by the movie not being good. This would be like, bringing that renter home, popping it in, watching it, and being like, that was pretty good. I don't feel like my evening was a total waste.
All right. Yep, that's isn't that the goal? All right. The dream,
Yeah.
to not waste your evening. All right, then last bit. What's the last bit you've been watching? You finally caught up to something.
Yeah, I wouldn't have to talk about this too long because it's a bit old news, but I finally finished the Apothecary Diaries season 1. So I finished all 24 episodes of the first season, um, and was pleasantly surprised. I definitely enjoyed a lot of it. When I tried to watch this before, I just wasn't in the right headspace for it, and now and recently, I kind of came back into a good like, okay, all right, I'm gonna try this out. Got kind of used to the characters, sort of started to enjoy some of the mysteries and stuff like that were involved with it, and overall, I found it to be pretty good. I mean, I know it's like Apothecary Diaries so good. I think it might be a little bit overrated by like the swaths of people that give it mega high ratings, but it's definitely not bad. It is very good. It is very watchable, and the characters are at least, you know, they act kind of like real people, which is oftentimes rare for anime. So yeah. Anyway, I actually did really like it. So I'm glad you continued to press me about watching it or bring it up and be like, yeah, it is actually pretty good. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm liking season 2 as well, and that's kind of where I keep on talking, and that's why I keep on bringing it to your forefront. And I'm glad you gave it another chance because yeah, like most definitely, you acknowledge that it was okay, but just not for you. Like it was like yeah, which you as a respectful take of yeah, I don't like it. So I'm actually surprised you gave it another chance, and it was fine. Like I wasn't upset. I'm like, yeah, dude, not every show has to be for everybody. Speaking of which, that's kind of my take on that Ameku MD Doctor Detective series, which is having what continue to hate watching it.
I,
I
I did. So before you go off, I did watch the first episode of that, and yeah, I mean, like, I don't know who. Maybe Apothecary Diaries like takes a fucking sorry, a fucking nosedive in the second season, but there's like no way that Ameku is like I meant like Ameku MD or whatever is literally House. It's like literally just House. So anyway, go ahead.
yeah, and that's the exact thing. Is it's like between that and trying to like what makes a good detective show or like a deduction thing is the process, showing the process. In this case, in Ameku MD, it's just she's just like um she just automatically just murmurs to herself and like like eureka, I got it. Like it doesn't show you doing the homework, doesn't show you working through the process. Not really. It's just like I've known it all along. And like what makes a good Sherlock series is watching kind of him muddle through it a little bit and kind of showing the headspace. But it's trying to be too much like Sherlock without being enough, like anything else. And I really dislike the Ameku. Like as it's not a bad. I say I really dislike it mostly because other things better exist. As if I just take it by itself with not knowing Sherlock Holmes, not knowing, um, like any of these other show or Apothecary Diaries, it's like it's most I'm like, okay, it would be okay, probably. I would say, yeah, that's I wouldn't recommend it to people, but at the same time, I wouldn't like outright like denounce it. But especially when you're coming out side by side with Apothecary Diaries, and it's just
Mm.
like it's such a more likable person. Like in the Apothecary Diaries, like almost everyone's more likable. And yeah, I don't know. It's Ameku MD is just trying to be so much uh, of a thing. Like it's trying too hard to mimic like a house or mimic Sherlock, where it's like, yeah, they're not sociable. They don't know how to socialize in real settings because they're kind of that uh they're they're a little bit on the spectrum, and we're
Mm.
just good, but we're going to make them, but we're using that to their advantage because that they know how to do something super skilled, and that kind of supersedes everything else, like the rule of cool. Like we have to
Mm.
forego all the other things because that's just how awesome this person is. I'm like, you are trying to tell me this person is awesome, but everything I see says otherwise. Really, I mean,
But like, yeah, I mean, it's like
I
I don't
yeah.
care about awesome. I want to watch another human being. Like I want to relate to another human being when I watch this show. If I wanted to just watch awesome, I would just watch like a rocket take off or something like that. It's not like that was the thing about House is like House would I mean became just kind of too much, but he would they would just use it too much, but he would get stumped by what was going on using like all his genius brain power. He would get stumped and kind of mope around and give up, kind of not know what to do. And the clock's ticking down. The person's going to die. The patient's going to die. And then he'd wander over into Wilson's office, who he thought was like an idiot and, very like just definitely not on the same level, and talk to him for a minute. And Wilson would be like, would say something stupid, and House would be like, huh, that's stupid. And then he'd go, wait a minute, and like it would just be like that like different kind of thinking is the one puzzle piece that House needed to complete the whole problem and solve it. But he needed to get in touch with his humanity in order to do that. And this show, I mean, I've only watched one episode, but it didn't seem like it was ready to do that.
It's one step below House. I mean, the other problem with House, House is entertaining, but it was uh, I can't believe you're saying this. You're wrong. Like the entire time, just naysaying and butting heads against them, and then in the end, oh, you were right. You think after like the 20th time this happens, you would be like, okay, maybe I should just go with what you say from the start, and then we'll work from there. But because we have to have
Drama.
forced drama,
Yeah.
we're gonna go ahead and we're like, you know, it's you're a madman. This is not, that's not how you do it. And then like, oh, but you were right. And
Yeah.
anyways, that's the problem with procedural shows, right? Like
Yeah.
that. It's just you can only do that so much, and like what was it um was it Brendan Lee Miller? Lee Miller being the newest the Sherlock Elementary. That was it. It was Elementary with Lucy Lewis Watson.
Hmm.
Um and it was like that was so formulaic to the point where like we liked it in the beginning, the first season, and then by season two though rolls around, and, I was like, my wife and I were like, okay, let's play the game of who is the guilty party, because whatever show it is, they're going to introduce them in the first three people that they introduce. Like, okay, it's that one, and then we put our bets down, and at the very end of the episode, like, yeah, I got him right off the bat, like because you just know that it's a new case every episode. It's either going to be the person who finds the body, the person who reports it to the police, or the first person that they're talked to, or something like that, or the first suspect. It's one of those like handful of people, and you know that they're the bad guy in the end. And it's just it got really boring because of that. It's like, all right, you're just too by the numbers, but people don't like to think, they just like to watch, and if you don't think about it, then it's great, but the moment you realize something like that, it's like you can't unsee it.
That was like a
So
CBS show, right?
yeah, it's one of the mainstream, yeah,
Yeah.
CBS
That
or
was the thing. That's the thing
NBC or
about those
something.
network shows is they're just so formulaic now that they can't that they almost never have anything really particularly good to offer.
Yeah, it's most of the syndicated stuff where like you want them, the actual overarching story is still entertaining, but unfortunately you have to have an episode to episode, start and finish, and you just can't leave it off of more or less cliffhangers. Um, and yeah, anyways, but we did really like that one for like the first couple seasons, but we ended up dropping it, and it's yeah, it's unfortunate because a good detective series is fun, um, but if you're going to go off of something like that, we ended up gravitating towards like Midsummer Murder, which is an old BBC like series. It's like I forgot how we discovered that, but we're like, yeah, this is actually pretty entertaining. I think it was during like COVID is what happened, and we just got really hooked on that for a while. Then they switched like sidekicks, and then they were like, no, we can't accept this new person. Then we accept the new person, and then they switch something at someone else. Like, no, all right,
Yeah,
fine, we'll eventually warm up to you.
the British idea of TV is really weird because it's like the show just goes on forever, and then it's like the actors like I got to go do something else, and then they switch out the lead for somebody else, and you're like, what in the world? Like the lead is the show in America a lot of times, but that's
Yeah,
not the way that they did it over there.
it's either they do that or they do just the opposite, and you're like, yeah, and the whole season is like 4 to 6 episodes. You're like, wait, what? But like,
Yeah.
but they're like an hour long, 2 hour. They're like, it's like almost a full movie sometimes.
Hmm.
Like, okay, you can kind of accept it in a certain way. But all right, besides the point, Ameku MD, not really worth your time. I mean, it's not necessarily a bad waste of your time, but honestly, watch Apothecary Diaries instead.
Hmm.
All right.
Yeah, I can agree
Well,
with
if you
that.
made it to the end, we're grateful. Thank you very much. This has been ADP, episode 118. And Nick, what are some words of wisdom you got for the people out there?
Um, Peeps will keep for a long time. You don't have to eat them all at once.
Yeah, stash them next to your Twinkies as part of your doomsday prep, device. Yeah, for sure. All right, guys. Until next time. This is ADP. Y'all take it easy.
Bye.